Test one, two, test one, two.
Good evening, everybody. I make it 5 p.m. Therefore, we will get going. It is Wednesday, the 17th of January, and this is the Cabinet. So I shall take us through the standard agenda items, and then we will get going. So apologies for absence. I think we've got Councillor Nagpal joining us shortly online once the link is confirmed. Councillor Shaw is also joining us online shortly. Other than that, I don't think I've got any. No urgent matters. Matters to be considered in private, as is my usual caveat. There are gold papers in some of the agenda items. If you wish to speak from those items, please indicate before doing so, as we will have to turn off the live stream and ask the gallery is cleared of members of the public. And we wouldn't want to do that if we could at all avoid. So please do indicate if you wish to do that. Are there any declarations of interest? I see no indications. And therefore, the minutes of the previous meeting, as set out in the agenda, if there are no corrections to which I look for, then I ask that they are agreed. There are no appointments to subcommittees or outside bodies, and therefore we move to item number 7, the Council Plan Performance Report Q2. As is the case with all of the quarterly performance reports, I'm going to invite each cabinet member just to speak very briefly to highlight some of the activity that the council has been undertaking over the last 3 months, and to speak to some of our key performance indicators, which give us an indication of how healthy the organisation is and how we are delivering against the council's plan. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to go in the order that they are in the paper, with Councillor Anand tackling inequality and crime.
Thank you, Chair. The first one is on really, we are investing alongside the police in tackling antisocial behaviour, violent crime and violence against women and girls. We've been very well blessed with having a superintendent of police, which is dedicated to Ealing only, and we are working in collaboration with them for a very, very positive move. And we really want residents to stay vigilant and report any suspicious activities so that we could make sure that we are tackling antisocial behaviour and crime within our borough. Number 2, for our Out of Trent court team, basically the court team work very closely with our young people with better alternatives. Instead of young people going back to court, we're working with young people and their families to consider better options and prioritise positive changes for their future. Number 3, all children who are referred to this young justice service have their education, training and employment reviewed as part of their assessment to planning their process. Challenging behaviours and circumstances can affect figures such as mental health, learning disability, health and family circumstances have an impact. So percentages can vary significantly. Do you want to carry on, Chair, or just 3? Yeah. Right.
Thank you very much. Let's go to now Councillor Costigan for climate action.
Thanks, Chair. 3 areas that I wanted to highlight in terms of our performance this quarter. Number 1, active travel, where we have a whole slew of active travel deliveries. 99th bike hanger about to be installed, so we will have more than double the number of bike hangers in the borough. We've got 820 electric vehicle charging points installed. That has more than trebled from where we were a year ago when we only had 180. We're now on, we'll be on 28 school streets put into place this term, well on our way over the halfway mark to the 50 we said we'd do. We also, of course, number 2, regional park. We have announced our regional park ambition, and the consultation on the regional park ended on the 19th of December. So we'll be looking at those consultation responses and coming forward with our next steps. And then the final area, the 3rd area, is of course trees. I couldn't let that pass without mentioning trees. We are on track to planting 19,000 trees by the end of this current planting season. So that's from October to March this year. With the amount that we planted last year, overall, we should be looking at 25,000 trees planted in 2 years, halfway to the 50,000 trees we promised. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Blacker, Healthy Lives.
Thank you, Chair. I should update Cabinet that in November we agreed that if successful we would adopt £5 million of funding from the National Institute of Health Research. I can confirm to Cabinet that we were successful in the bid, and we now have an NIHR Health Determinants Research collaboration of £5 million over 5 years, so congratulations to the public health team and all our community partners for supporting that. I should highlight in the report, there are a couple of reds in our KPIs in terms of permanent admissions to care homes. I just want to reassure colleagues that's more a reflection that we have moved some short-term placements into permanent, reflecting that they have been short-term for some time. So it's not an increase in our placement into care homes, but it's a reflection of the length of time people have been staying there already. But there is otherwise excellent performance, particularly on waiting times for assessment and in terms of reviews. And I'm pleased to say that we are exceeding our target of 3,000 residents being supported to live at home, which just demonstrates our commitment to having people live long and healthy and happy lives independently for as long as possible.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nagpal, fair start.
Thank you, Chair. So some highlights from me. 99% of our schools are rated good or outstanding by Ofsted. We've delivered 128 additional places for children with special educational needs and disabilities. And we've made experience of care a protected characteristic. And in this quarter, our care leavers were supported through designing an app. And also we did a council takeover day for them where they came and actually ran the council for a day, which was brilliant. I'd like to just pick up on some of the KPIs that are in red. Percentage of children looked after with more than 3 placements within a year. This is red because some of the children were actually being reunified home in that quarter. So although it's red because it counts as a placement move, it was actually really positive for those young people because they were safely being reunified with their families. So really positive for those children. The percentage of re-referrals in the last 12 months. This is, it's quite unusual, but we've had a number of sibling groups coming through in this quarter, and 138 of 182 children were in a sibling group. And it's unusual to see so many sibling groups coming forward, but it is a sign of the times. Cost of living crisis, lots of mental health issues and families, and it's unfortunate that those young people have had to come through the front door again, but again, the government's not really helping, and it's unfortunate. But that's all from me. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nagpal. We'll go now to Councillor Brett, decent living incomes.
Thank you, Chair. So Q2 has been brilliant this year. So far, so 3 main points are we've got 1,060 Ealing residents that have been supported into employment by Work Ealing and its partners, which is brilliant. And another 236 apprenticeship vacancies have been created. The council has also secured an additional 500,000 in UK Prosperity Fund to support local businesses. And we have 1,460 qualifications and training programme graduations that have been achieved by Ealing residents so far. So really positive news.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Donnelly, inclusive economy.
Thank you, Chair. I'll pick out one policy development, a couple of the KPIs. The new commercial strategy is up and running with the particular aim to engage as many players in the local economy as possible in the council's economic activity, and broaden our base, broaden our and deepen our involvement, and the new e-tendering system is up and running. Couple of the KPIs, colleagues will remember that sick absence has been something of a problem ever since really COVID, and I'm pleased that we're now running green. We're dipped under the target that we set ourselves. We're not a long way under the target, and we're not relaxing our vigilance on this. And there'll certainly, as sometimes happens in life, a difficult situation causes us to focus our attention in a way that we need to continue once the difficult situation is gone. And we'll certainly be doing that to ensure that we're supporting our staff as much as possible. And the last one, a little like Councillor Nagpal was saying, that red doesn't always betoken bad news. When it comes to freedom of information requests, our percentage that are being responded to within time is up to 92%. It's not 100%, but 100% is the only way you get green on that one. So it is something of an uphill struggle. And again, colleagues will remember that 3 Bless you, Councillor Backer. Councillors will remember that when we came into this administration, that the figures were way down on that. So I'd like to thank the team, and I'd like to thank the strategic directors for giving them the support without which they can't produce these results.
And I think for the public record, Councillor Blacker sneezed, which is why Councillor Donnelly, you blessed him. You weren't merely giving him a blessing in the middle of your presentation. But I'm sure Councillor Blacker feels very blessed. Councillor Chital Manro, good growth, new housing.
Thank you, Chair. So my area of responsibilities had a lot of officers working very hard during this year. So we've got the local plan, which we've been working on. We will be going out to Reg 19 in February. And I want to thank the officers. They've worked very, very hard, and it's taken a lot of time. There's also 2 reports on the agenda. One is around housing delivery, where officers have worked very, very hard to produce this report, and also the housing strategy, where they've had to work fairly hard as well. As part of the key sort of asks, we are going to go ahead with a community infrastructure levy moving forward. It'll take a couple of years to come into place, but it should raise around about £12 million a year, as well as the 106 regime, which will carry on. We're also moving towards a 40% ask of private developers when they come in to develop residential housing in the borough, rather than 35%. So 40% generally affordable. That's what we want. And in terms of my key performance indicators, I'm pleased to say all major applications to the London Borough of Ealing have seen 100% success rate. That is, we've decided 100% of all major applications in the right time frame. And for minor ones, slightly less, but still green, 98.5% of all minor applications have been decided in the right time. So I can thank all the teams that have done all that hard work, but there's a lot more to do, but it is fairly good news. Thank you, Chair.
And I believe, Councillor Manro, that the resolution time on our planning performance actually puts us at the top of the league table in London for the time taken to progress planning applications, which I think is a real testament to the team and the investment that's gone in there, to be able to say that we are the best performing planning authority. You know, I know that there are some people, not least, I think, members of the opposition, who don't believe it, but the facts are there in black and white and on the government's portal. So that's really great news. Councillor Mahfouz, safe and genuine affordable housing.
Thank you, Chair. And on this bitterly cold evening and night, I thought I'd start with some successes that we've had around supporting rough sleepers, and we've been able to support 25 in the first 2 quarters of this year. And very much sort of going along with that type of work is that we've been able to support 71 residents who have got no recourse to public funds to access key immigration advice, which in many cases actually helps them to be able to establish their legal status within the UK and be able to get back on their feet and rebuild their lives. In terms of homelessness, and we know that that is absolutely going through the roof, but actually we are the best borough in London at preventing homelessness. We are the 3rd best in the country. And in terms of our key performance indicators, given the context of a broken housing market caused by Tory mismanagement of the economy, it's an absolute miracle that only one of our KPIs within this portfolio is actually red. All the rest, thankfully, are ahead of target. But as so many families are facing the very real consequences of that, the government's incompetence, they are being evicted, and through no fault of their own, being evicted from the homes that they've been living in for so long, and they are having to turn up on our doorsteps to put a roof over their heads. And so across London, as well as here, obviously we're seeing numbers of households in temporary accommodation increasing, and so that is resulted, as you would expect, with us being in the red in that particular key performance indicator.
And finally, thriving communities, Councillor Newstub.
Thank you. We are seeing more and more people using our community assets like libraries and leisure centres, which is great news. And I'm delighted that we're building on the 2.4 million that we give to the voluntary sector and community groups, that we have notified successful
bidders for our small grant scheme, which is how smaller organisations with a turnover of under 50,000 are able to continue the brilliant work that they do on behalf of residents. We made our submission to the GLA to become Borough of Culture in 2025. It'd be a really great opportunity to showcase Ealing's brilliant cultural offering, as well as bring good jobs and investment into the borough. We've made really good progress on rebuilding the leisure centre on the site of Gurnell. And overall, we're seeing really, really strong progress in all areas.
Okay, thank you very much to Cabinet. I have questions from the opposition. So first I'll go to Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. When I'm looking at which sort of metrics affect where you live, regardless of where you live in the borough, 13, 14 and 47 cover that. So 2 of them for Councillor, for Deirdre. The household waste collection is again red and below target. The fly tips are not cleared in time. And the third one, the percentage of telephone calls answered within 5 minutes. All 3 of them use the phrase, "we expect to improve," which sounds good, but there is no actions that will take place there that we can see in the report. So my question for all 3 of those is, what are the actions that will take place from the council to make improvements in all 3 of those areas?
So I know that we've covered this a few times before, and perhaps Councillor Costigan, you might want to give Councillor Malcolm the answer that you've given previously, and Councillor Donnelly, you might want to do that too.
Yeah, and in fact, Chair, the answer to the question is actually in the report. So I'm looking at where am I? What page am I? B of page 33, household waste sent for reuse, recycling and composting, where there is a full explanation, and in C of the same page, fly tips cleared within target time. So it is explained there and it can be read, but just to give a short précis, in terms of household waste sent for reuse, recycling and composting, in fact, we are consistently in the top 3 London boroughs for our recycling rate. So there are 32 London boroughs, just for information there. So we are in the top 3 of that there. We want to do better, though. We want to do even better. And so we have set ourselves a very challenging target of coming in over 50%. And we're continuing to work on that. The figures that are in this report, which show a red, are slightly below 48%. But in fact, the September performance was 52%. So we do expect to see that improving. And we will stay up in the top 3, and we will continue to improve and go over that 50%, as is outlined clearly in the report. In terms of the fly tips, we got an 88% collection rate in Q2, which was less than the 95% we target and that we've usually achieved. But the reason that was the case was that there was an issue with the IT system speaking to GEL. So when people report a fly tip to the council, that IT system then speaks to the IT system that Greener Ealing used to actually pick up the fly tips. And unfortunately, for a short period of time, those 2 IT systems weren't speaking to each other. We now identified the problem, we've fixed the problem. It will no longer be an issue, and we know that their performance has already improved. So a minor blip there with the IT system, but not something that will impact our yearly performance in this area, which is consistently very good, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. As I've reported at previous Cabinet meetings, performance in terms of call response has been affected partly by staff being pulled away to work on other short-term projects, partly by issues with the software that we were using. We are hopeful that we have a period of calm at this point, which will see improvement. But aligned to that, and it's reported elsewhere next to this, it's absolutely key that we continue to work to get as much communication with us that can be done online, so that those people who don't use ICT equipment will not find their path to us blocked by those who could have reported it that way and didn't. And I can understand that people may think the fastest way to get in touch with us and report things is by the phone. That's not necessarily, of course, the case. So we want to channel our people's communication with us to where it could be most effective.
Thank you very much. And of course, if those answers weren't good enough, Councillor Malcolm, you can go back a quarter and review the tapes of on YouTube of the last Cabinet meeting where I think we discussed precisely the same issue. Councillor Gallant.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question for Councillor Nalcol on schools and how we are adapting to changing demand for places and staffing. And serendipity, this was actually substantially addressed at the Joint Schools Committee last night. If she'd like to elaborate on that, be very grateful.
So unless it's relating to the performance report and the context of like what's in there and the key performance indicators, I'm minded not to do that, because if it was covered at Trade Union Joint yesterday,
I'm happy with what was covered yesterday,
and it will be covered, I think, next Cabinet at the schools places annual report. I think what we'll do is we'll park that one if that's content with you, Councillor Gallant, and we'll move on to the next one.
As I said, I'm happy with that, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so unless there's anything more from anybody else, what I'm going to suggest then is that Cabinet are directed to the recommendations in the report. Well, I think then to note the report and ask that that's agreed. We move next to item number 8, the 5-year housing capital programme procurement. I believe, who am I going to first? I'm going to Councillor Mahfouz first.
Thanks, Chair. So we did a bit of market research previously in terms of this ahead of doing this paper. You'll appreciate, obviously, one of our key objectives as an administration is to make sure that we have safe as well as genuinely affordable homes. In order to do that, we want to have a capital investment programme, so investing in our properties. And this document seeks to bring that forward so that we can go out to the market and identify suitable contractors that we can work with over the next 5 years to make sure that we're spending the money in the best way and that we're bringing the stock, our properties, the homes that our residents live in, up to the appropriate conditions. We're currently undertaking a stock survey, which will be able to determine what work needs to be done, where and when.
Thank you very much. And I think like a previous question, we'll also be taking the HRA at the next Cabinet meeting. So no doubt we'll go into the full picture of this a little bit further in terms of financial position. But Councillor Gallant, I believe you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Ely is one of several boroughs to have been affected by a failing contractor. Do we have appropriate resources to check continually on chosen contractors' financial health over this proposed 5-year contract term?
Councillor Mahfouz.
Yep, thanks, Chair. So absolutely, we will go through due process in terms of making sure that we do the full checks on their financials that they submit and on any other submitted data that they put as part of their PQQ, the pre-qualifying questionnaire, to make sure that we do the due diligence. As part of that, they need to submit references from other organisations or councils that they are currently working with, and so we'll do the checks on that. The legal team will go over their insurances to make sure that they're at the appropriate level, and they're obviously, they are legitimate insurances that are in place, and we'll also look at their staff competencies. What we can't account for is obviously the incompetencies of the government that breaks down a sector, as we've seen with the construction industry, and changes the goalposts of where that sector is working, and means that they are going to the wall left, right, and centre, through no fault of our own as a local authority, but actually because of the direct consequences of, as I've said already, the incompetence and economic mismanagement of the previous, or of the current government and the previous Prime Minister in particular.
Thank you very much. Unless there are any other indications to speak, I'll ask that Cabinet note the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed. Thank you very much. We now move to housing delivery updates, item number 9, Councillor Manro.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks to update Cabinet on all our housing delivery activity. It's a fairly complex report because there's a number of issues that's, as Councillor Bassam has indicated, has affected the housing delivery market our contractors. We have one or two contractors that have gone, shall we say, bankrupt, and that those contractors, I mean, for a sort of clarity, did go through the proper procurement processes, and the council has a duty to get value for money, but we do make sure we go through that process. So there were insurance bonds in place that we can call on, but these contractors were not small contractors. Henry Construction, for one, had a turnover over 600 million. And when they actually did go bankrupt, they were working on 60 different sites throughout the country. So that shows that we do have a process in place, but Liz Truss and her government, unfortunately, has virtually destroyed the house building sector in terms of high interest rates, material prices going up. I mean, Brexit didn't help, but there's been a whole host of issues that have come forward, which have caused a major problem in housing delivery. So what this seeks to do is to note where we have issues, note what we have to do, and note that we have to safeguard the grant we're getting from the GLA to put them into alternative development processes where we can make sure we don't lose any grant. But there is some risk. There's never a 100% sort of guarantee that we can get substitute projects in time to take care of all the grants that we've got currently are settled on sites that may not come forward. But I'm willing to answer any questions, but it is a fairly complex report looking at all the issues and trying to outline how we move forward. Thank you, Chair.
Well, you do have a question, and it's from Councillor Gallant.
Just a couple of questions here, actually, Chair. It's first to page 18 of the report. This is 2.48 para 1 concerning 57 Greenford Road. It states that Brent Valley Golf Course is earmarked to become part of the new regional park. Does this mean that the golf course will be closed? And refer to page 16 of the report, section 2.47, concerning the development of Percival House car park. You're planning to approve a 1.7 million pound spend on consultancy fees, planning fees, and surveys. Now, given that the plan for Percival House was substantially different just 1 year ago, would it not be better to go ahead with this once the future of the building itself was better determined?
So I mean, in terms of the regional park, I mean, a golf course can be part of a regional park, Councillor Gallant. So I think I think it's very unfortunate that you should ask a question that has no basis in fact. So, Councillor Manro, do you want to tackle the second part of the question?
Sorry, can you just confirm? Because
You want the question again? No?
well,
Both of them.
What I was concerned with, you asked about 57 Greenford Road, and then you put the park in that same
I see.
sentence. So
Councillor, he's just causing trouble. What he's trying to do is to use a report to allude to something that isn't related to the report. I think it's Councillor Gallant, don't interrupt me. The report is using Brent Valley as to orient the reader to the location of the development, which is what is in the report. So I don't feel the need that we need to pursue the line of questioning on the first question. Councillor Gallant is smiling. He knows he's causing trouble. Just deal with the substantive issue in the second question.
Chair, I don't know what he wants to know about that, because that is in gold papers as well. So if he wants me to go and talk about the development, I can't really do that without going to gold papers.
So on the second question, Councillor Gallant, do you want to clarify the question? And if you can, ask the question in a way that doesn't require us to clear the gallery.
You don't need to clear the gallery, Chair. It's just the question that the building itself, there are questions over the future of the building, which must link to the car park. And the question is it too early to decide on this spend?
Well, look, we have to have a pipeline of development sites to try and take the grant from the GLA. So this site is in our own hands, and we can actually move forward, because as we've indicated before, this building is going to stay, it's going to be retrofitted. So therefore we can move forward with the car park part of it. It'll be a new planning application, but we do need to take the process forward. So that's what we're doing. And yes, you may agree with it or not, but it is it's in our hands. It's our site, and we can move forward to try and deliver genuinely affordable homes in the middle of Ealing Broadway.
And again, one might say that the question was framed in such a way as to perhaps cause a bit of mischief, despite all of the public reassurances that we've given in terms of the future of Percival House, which is that we are staying, that it won't be demolished, that the old scheme is dead and won't go forward, and that we will seek to bring forward proposals for the council's use of this building, as well as other proposals to open up the ground floor for community use, as well as the potential leasing or use of other parts of the building for business incubation and for a range of other community and commercial activities. As Councillor Manno rightly says, there's a level car park that could potentially be used for a range of different purposes, not least car parking might be one of them. It may well be that we use it for some homes too. And of course, it'll have to go through a planning process that means that it'll have to take into consideration the fact that it is pinned in by this building, a train track, and all of the houses that are next to it. So I think you can pretty much guarantee that it's not going to look anything like the old scheme. But with those caveats, I don't believe there are any more questions, and I don't see any indications to speak. So thank you, Councillor Manro, for your introduction. I ask that Cabinet members are directed to the recommendations in the report and ask that they're agreed to. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 10, housing strategy, Councillor Manro.
Thank you, Chair. I note there's no questions on this, but this is a comprehensive piece of work that officers have carried out. There's an enormous amount of research around. So some of the issues around the research that's produced, I'll give you one example. The income levels in this borough are so low, yet the house prices are so high compared to the rest of the boroughs. I think we're about 27th lowest in terms of medium income, yet our house prices are amongst the highest in the boroughs. So on average, it takes 16 times medium income to purchase a home in this borough. So we have some real challenges around our housing strategy and the housing delivery plan as part of that strategy as to how do we manage this really, it doesn't match. The borough has really high prices, low incomes. So we need to manage specialist housing, housing for our elderly, all the different issues. But this plan will go out for consultation, so people have a chance, and the opposition has a chance to maybe ask questions next time around how and why we're following this strategy. But we will go out to consultation, Chair. So this is our thought out process. We're happy to, we will be able to change it when we get our consultation responses back. But this seeks to do the next 5 years or so around how we actually approach delivery of housing in the borough and the strategy we sort of adopt as part of the council's plans.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Manro. And it's the easiest gig in the world as an opposition to kick an administration for its delivery in the context of the current environment that we face in housing. Of course, it's a much better thing to do as an opposition to set out what your alternative is. We're setting out very clearly what we're trying to do in the context of the current housing market, as it was different to our strategy from even 4 years ago. And that's very clearly laid out in the report, which I think is very solid. It is a shame that there aren't any questions on that, but that is what there is. Councillor Mahfouz, do you want to make a contribution?
Thanks, Chair. So just first of all, that we will be bringing a homelessness strategy in the future. I think it is incredibly disappointing that on this topic, which is at the forefront of so many people's minds across the borough, that we've had no contributions from either of the two so-called opposition parties this evening, and very telling in terms of what they don't see as a priority for them. For us, in terms of the priorities as part of this document, we first and foremost want to use it as an opportunity and the levers to increase the supply of genuinely affordable homes, given the context, as I've said so many times, of reducing availability out there in the market. But we also know that it's important that we make sure that they're not just genuinely affordable. We've got quality homes, good products that are safe, secure and sustainable. And of course, a house is not just a home. It's also the ability for those people who live within it to have that stability going forward, and making sure that they are able to, be able to do their homework from there as young people, and live and thrive from having a sort of good condition and a genuinely affordable home. So this is very much about supporting people to be able to live well within the community, and promoting resilience and fighting inequality as well. So it's not just about the bricks and mortar of developing these new properties, and that's what we seek to achieve through this strategy.
Thank you very much. Unless there are any other contributions from members of the Cabinet, I ask that you direct to the recommendations from the report and that they're agreed. Finally, we move to the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000, REPA. It's our annual report, Steve. Councillor Donnelly, I should say, have we been spying anyone?
Well, I know people will say, I would say that if I say no, Chair, but the answer is no. So yes, obviously one of the highlights of the year, my annual report on this has to do three things. One, report on any covert activity in which the council has engaged under its authority that it has under the Act. And again, we have had no such activity. To approve the policy for the year ahead, and to reappoint the officers responsible for the management and monitoring of the policy. And I ask that colleagues would support me in that.
Are the recommendations in the report agreed? Fantastic. And in that case, I confirm that the date of the next meeting is the 7th of February 2024, and conclude the meeting. Thank you.